Do you want me to go or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, good. Just call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show that all board members are present except Eric Strandberg. And we'll move on to the Student Showcase Zones of Regulation and PBIS. And welcome, welcome.
All right.
Welcome primary school. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. They put in a long day already and they're here with us now.
Yes, so I want to introduce them. This is Peggy Swenson, our social worker. And this is Melinda Zachman, who is one of our special education teachers and helps lead our climate and culture committee in our building. And I told Melinda, this is the dedication of these two ladies. Just listen to her speak in about 30 seconds and then you'll find out. I was like, oh my gosh, you should be at home resting. So thank you to Peggy and Melinda for coming here. We just wanted to share a little bit about all of the SEL, social emotional learning types of items that we do to support students. And we have a video that will show you a little bit later of students. We're trying to think, how can we get them here? You know, I probably last year when we came to show how to do the academic pieces of orthographic mapping and integrity, I'm like, gosh, that's going to be a really hard one to top with the kids. But this will be great because we do a lot of really neat things, and it'll be nice to show you guys what those are to help support kids. And I'm not quite sure how to get it to the presentation mode, so we'll just go like this if that's okay.
All right. Okay, so on our first slide, we have some Boys Town social skills that we teach to our students. Boys Town was founded on the belief that all students can succeed no matter their circumstances. So our climate and culture team chose a top 6 that we want our students to be confident in, to know, and to use every day. They're listed there. Each skill is broken down into simple steps. Classroom teachers all have posters for listening and following directions. Kids are taught, look at the speakers, say okay, do it right away, check back. Each of the skill is broken down that way. Taught to students either by people coming in, non-classroom teachers teaching a lesson on it, or by classroom teachers as well. One of the lessons, reporting the behavior of others, is like a follow-up to our Stop, Walk, and Talk, our bully prevention program. Kids are encouraged to use Stop, Walk, and Talk, and then if they are still having difficulties, they need to know how to find an adult and what to say to report that behavior in a confidential way. So there are skills that go right along with that. Another, I don't know how to flip this. Do I just click on it? Okay. We also use Leah Kuiper's Zones of Regulations in our classrooms. This program helps students to recognize emotions, self-regulate, and hopefully have some emotional control. Feelings are broken down into 4 different categories. You can see there. There's a green zone, blue zone, yellow zone, and red zone. And we have a little wrap right here that our ADSES behavior staff person, who is absolutely wonderful, she created this little wrap as part of a teaching tool for students.
As Peggy's pulling it up, one of the things that all of the students have on their desk is what you see there where it says student desk poster. It's about this big. And so what that does is it allows opportunities for the teacher to do a check-in with students in a private manner. Yes. So like a teacher might, when kids first come in the morning, they might say, move your penny, or there might be like, every teacher has like a different marker, if you would, that the student can move throughout the day with how they're feeling. Because sometimes in, for example, like the blue zone, that is more of your intrinsic types of feelings, like I might be feeling sad or lonely. Well, an adult might not be able to see that externally, but that's very important to know so that we can help them cope through that. So throughout the day, teachers will ask them to identify what zone are you in, and then they'll move their little marker for that. And then we'll kind of show also about how we teach them what you can do when you're feeling those different ways too. So there's posters on their individual desks, and that's important to keep it really private, instead of doing something up where all of the class can see, because not all students may want to share how they're feeling, or at least accurately.
I don't know.
Okay.
And so,
We can't, we might just have to skip the wrap.
well,
And
Peggy, you wrap it for us.
I
Oh
would
my
love
goodness, you
to.
knew that was coming.
I would love to, but I do not want to take any credit away from Mrs. Frankie. So here is that poster that all the students have on their desks, like Sarah was just talking about. And yes, very good tool. Teachers can even use it to show kids. You know, I came in this morning and I was in the blue zone, but this happened and you're listening, following directions, and now I'm in the green zone. So kids are taught these, utilized in the classroom. It can be a screening tool, teaching tool. Then it moves on to a little bit further into, now what do I do? I'm not sure what all you had shared, but these posters are in the classrooms and also posted in different areas around the school. Because when kids know, okay, I'm in the blue zone, I'm feeling sick, sad, tired, bored, now what do I do? So these posters are kind of generic, but a starting point for teachers to help kids. Here are some things that we can do. Maybe we need to talk about it. Maybe you need a drink. If I'm in the yellow zone, I know I'm not feeling good. I don't like this feeling. How can I get back to the green zone? And there's some options listed. Maybe some deep breathing. Maybe you need to talk about it. Maybe you need to take a breath. Some classrooms have a calming corner that they let their students use. So they can add to this list. Just to help kids out, recognize those emotions, know what to do to get calm again, and hopefully have a great day.
maybe I can try. I'm not sure what happened when because we downloaded it to this computer, because it really is quite,
It is very cute.
it's quite lovely, and it's very powerful, because students really connect to it. But I wonder if I'll just mess everything up if I try to switch over.
Could we try it at the very end?
Yeah,
So
why don't
then
we do
that
that?
way it messes it up.
It's a great idea, Melissa. So keep that in mind. Just now what you'll have is like this
You
cliffhanger.
just
What does this
turn it
wrap
on
look like
from your
and sound
computer
like?
and turn the volume up, we could hear
Okay, there's some visuals with it, but I'll, you'll get the point.
Happy. Relax.
So she's going through all the different
Proud. And glad.
visuals with it.
Tired. Bored.
And the green zone is the learning zone.
Start.
Yeah.
And sad.
No, that's how she operates.
These are feelings we have every day.
It's kind of blurred, so I wasn't sure.
Our
Can you see
feelings
it
go
okay?
with
Yeah.
us along the way. Some feelings help us do better in class.
I like it.
That's
Like the green light says, go to a car with gas. Green zone is a zone where we're good to go. When we're not too high and we're not too low. Our body is calm, our heart is steady. We look and feel like we are ready. So keep doing what you're doing and always know green zone feelings make our brains to grow. Green zone means we feel okay. And we will have a really great day. Green zone. Green zone.
That's fabulous. So that's Karen Frankie, our behavior access teacher, and she's amazing. But the kids really, she's like, Sarah, no, I'm gonna retape that and get you a new one, because she didn't like that one. I said, Karen, it's perfect, because she knew I was gonna show it. So a little bit about zones.
And I'm going to talk about our passports, and this is something that is very important to us. We do it in the fall, and we do it again in January, just as a reminder to kids. But in the fall, we actually have the students go from part of the building to part of the building, and instead of the teacher just saying, this is what the expectations are in the bathroom, or this is what the expectations are on the playground. They actually go to those areas and the custodians talk to them in the bathrooms and explain to them what the expectations are and what is needed. And then what happens when they cause problems in the bathroom, it causes Mr. Mike extra work to do and that sort of thing. And so it's really, we found that it's really powerful to the kids, because now it's not some random person that has to clean up the mess. It's Mr. Mike, or it's Miss Renee, or it is, you know, the lunch ladies, and so it's been really nice where we set up a schedule and the kids go within their class and they go to all the different areas in the school. Excuse me. We also have videos that go along with each of those sections. So if a class is not able to go in January, or we're not able to do those rotations in January, we do have that as a reminder. But those videos are also, our teachers have access to year-round. So I just talked to a teacher who was having her classroom's really having a hard time in the cafeteria. So she's stopping, and during SEL time, they're going through what are those expectations. So it's a continuous teaching tool that our teachers have access to. It's also really nice that our buses come for 2 days and they go over the bus safety, the bus expectations, and so they see either Luke or a driver, and so they're able to associate those rules with the bus, and they were able to get on the bus, and I think they even went for a ride this year.
We went for a ride. It's because what we're trying to do is how you teach kids what the expectation is, but then they also need an opportunity to practice it and blend those two together. So that's what could happen at each of those different areas, like in the cafeteria, like we have lines on the floor to help teach which way to go and what to do. So they actually took trays and walked through and did some of those things, especially at that kindergarten level, because everything is brand new.
And it's nice that we have all of those visuals, because those visuals stay. And so I was just in the cafeteria the other day and Mike was standing there reteaching the lines to the garbage cans. And so then our teachers also do a very nice job of, after the custodians go through what are the expectations of the bathroom, then our teachers go through and they do their reminders of what are those expectations and what is the expectation of how do we wash our hands. We don't take 5 pumps of soap, and we have all the visuals up, but just to reiterate those several times, especially at the beginning of the year and then after Christmas break, because kids kind of forget sometimes. Lots and lots of practicing in the hallway. And so we decided to throw a little bit of an incentive into the kids this year, as our Tiger Club had started Ziggy the Snake. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Ziggy. He's kind of a big Facebook type thing around this country. But they started a Ziggy the Snake, and we decided, you know what, that would be a great way to tie into Passport. So when the kids have all finished going through all of the Passport stations, and their teacher believes that they are ready to say, yes, I've got it, I know how to show Tiger Pride in each of these areas, then they were able to paint their rock. And then once the class all had their rocks painted, they went on into our Forest Learning Center area, and they have expanded Ziggy throughout the forest, and he lines up all of the trails out there. So that was kind of when Sarah and I were like, where are we gonna put this? Because it's like, great, we were gonna have 600 rocks, or so. But this way the custodians don't have to worry about snow blowing the rocks or anything. They're just all in our learning forest area.
So this part is something that we are super, super excited about. This has been in the planning since last spring, actually. And to a point, we started this last year, but we expanded on it. It's what we call Tiger Tune-Up. So when I was sitting here the other day and I was listening to Charlie talk about Tiger Tune-Up, I'm like, oh my gosh, great minds are thinking alike, because we both called 2 different things to the same name, not knowing that each of us had a Tiger Tune-Up. One for the littles and then one for the olders. But so this is what our Tiger Tune-Up looks like. The part that we had last year is where it was an opportunity for any staff member and for all kids who maybe needed a little bit of extra time, let's say, to finish an assignment. Maybe they didn't get an assignment done because they weren't following directions from the teacher. And so then that natural piece, as we call it then, is for those behaviors that are maybe right below the line. So then that can allow Colleen, who works in our reset room, to focus more of when a student might be a little bit more dysregulated. But they just need that extra time to do something. And so we started that part of it last year. And then a group of us just kind of got together and said, all right, this is what are we noticing that kids need, and how can we get creative with giving them what they need around more SEL opportunities and movement? Because kids, sometimes all kids, from our youngest of learners to our oldest of learners, but especially at that kindergarten, first grade, second grade, if you're doing much more than 10 minutes of content without checking in, that gets to be a long time for kids. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to put in some more of that SEL support, a place that we can tie in the zones that Peggy talked about, where we can tie in some of those passport expectations from around the school and in classroom that Melinda talked about, and putting it all in one spot. So we last spring got together literally in a room and said, how can we offer movement opportunities for kids that need them? And that's where the brainstorming began. And to kind of summarize what happened is that staff get a chance to keep teaching, teachers keep teaching, but if a student is in a classroom and you're just maybe noticing a little bit of this, right? And then I'm starting to distract Ben. Sarah, let's go get you a quick little 5-minute motor break. It's just designed to be something quick and efficient, to give kids what they need based on the zones, and then get them back to class. So we have different stations set up in this Tiger tune-up room, where when they walk down, they come down and then they check in with the supervisor. And you'll notice on this picture here, this is where they check in. There's that little student desk poster, because they're very familiar with that. Because the goal is for students to be able to develop that self-regulation and acknowledgement of where they're at, and then use those tools of how to get back in that green zone that we've been teaching them. This is one more way or layer of support. And then you'll notice kind of some of the pictures from the other slides with the zones and what they can do are there. Here are those Boys Towns resources posters that Peggy was talking about. So the student comes in and says, I'm feeling frustrated because I'm with math. It might be for a whole bunch of different reasons, but it's that self-identification and then to help promote that appropriate self-regulation. And so the supervisor then helps them choose between different stations that we collaborated with Rum River on. Our occupational therapist actually that works for the co-op, she was part of this planning since last spring, and then over the summer, a group of us said, okay, what is it that kids need? And then how do we set up that room so that we're clear with expectations and all of those things. So we actually did a training for the whole staff last week it was. And then we also want to be able to train students on what each of the stations look like and sound like, because it is a very controlled expectation. And so what you'll see here is we have different stations, and I can go through them here in a minute. Whoops. But what happens is that when the student comes in, after they've identified the zone, there's also a technology device there for them to watch a short video clip on what it looks like and sounds like in that station before they're allowed to go in. Because it's really important that they know what that looks like and sounds like so that they're using it in an expected and appropriate way. Because again, these are tools that they can use for that support. So super pumped, we added in a sensory table. Melissa, actually, our OT, her husband made that for us. It was so kind of him. There is a yoga ball where you can do like a deep pressure with the yoga ball on like a student lying on their stomach, and then you put the yoga ball on top where they could, with their stomach, roll on it as well to relieve some of that pressure. The trampoline, it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but up above are academic pieces, like letters and numbers and colors and shapes. So when they're jumping up, they're actually saying what they're reading up on the wall. And then we have a crash pad. The one thing that's not in that crash pad when I took the picture is we have a mat behind it. But that is something that they love, and teachers are like, can I go use that crash pad to go take a nap? Just kidding. And then a balance beam where you throw bean bags on the side and then you have to walk up and down the balance beam to pick them up. And then some of the other stations is we have a scooter board. So they lie on their tummy and then they roll on the scooter, because on the other side is puzzle pieces, and then they roll back to put the puzzle together. And there's a calming table where there's different putty and different things that are at the table. Oh, the weighted ball toss, those are 2 different size weights where you toss the ball back and forth with the student and just have a conversation. And then a calming canoe where there are different pieces there, a book that where they can do some of their fine motor pieces, their fine motor skills is right in there. These are those pillows, those sequence pillows that you can play with, very therapeutic, a weighted blanket, and then the canoe can actually rock. So all of these things were intentionally selected and designed with the experts of occupational therapy that all kids could benefit from. And the really cool part is that this is open to any student, gen ed, or student receiving special ed services, and any staff member can send down. There's open periods of the day because we got really creative and we were able to staff it just internally without any extra additions. So a lot of outside of the box creative thinking and truly a lot of collaboration with some of the folks that with Peggy and Melinda and others that couldn't be here. But it's something that we're super excited about, and we wanted to just kind of take that time to train students, make videos, train staff before we rolled it out, kind of go slow to go fast on that so we can be very clear of what that time looks like and sounds like for kids to be successful, because the goal is for them to get back to that, to be in that green zone so that they can be learning. And it's designed to be no more than 5 or 6 minutes out of class. And anything I'm missing on Tiger Tune-Up?
I don't think so. I think it's good.
Can high schoolers go?
Yes. Yeah. So we've had, and then the other piece to it is that we we're able, it's an opportunity formally and informally. So informally would be teachers saying, hey, I'm calling and I'm gonna send a student, and maybe they access it once. And then the formal motor breaks can be scheduled breaks throughout the day as we go through our PIT or MTSS process, as we do interventions for kids, that this is where they can go. Because before we were doing that, but it was just kind of all in different spots. So this really just kind of helps streamline that a little bit for kids. And then that allows us to be a little bit more efficient in our reset room so that Colleen, as great as she is, then can focus a little bit more on when students are really dysregulated versus regulated. Okay. And then we talk about what Tiger Pride is, and we went around and we videotaped some students, because if you want to ask us, if you want to get a great answers, ask a student what you think Tiger Pride is. So we did a little video, but I'm not sure if it will work. So we'll give it a try here.
So you have to press Control and then click on it, is what it says.
Oh, thank you, Ben.
But if it's tied to your Google Doc and if you don't have permission.
Yeah, it's weird. I had permission before. Something must have happened when we downloaded it. I don't know. I'll just maybe play it just like before then, if that's okay.
It's more personal than.
Yeah. Get to be Vanna and I'll walk around and show it to you.
Here, you can make it bigger though so they can see it.
So it says, what does Tiger Pride mean to you?
Walking in the hall quietly and showing respect and showing your best to your friends. Be good and be nice to others. Be listen and follow directions. Looking out for me, go to the pumpkin patch and I'm gonna use a private on the bus.
She said pride.
Now be rude to other people. If they be rude, you just avoid them. Take a part is listening and having fun to all of us. Following the golden rule, walking in the halls, raising your hand when you want to talk. And being respectful to others. Tiger Pride means teaching others about Tiger Pride. Tiger Pride means that you are being very respectful. Because listening really helps others. Doing your best. Something to be kind of. If someone falls, help them up outside. If someone falls, go ask a teacher for help and help them right away.
Could have ended on the love. Yeah, she said love. Yeah, they're so sweet, aren't they? We have the best job in the world. We get to be with kids. Hey, so that's just a little glimpse of what, some of the things that happen at the primary school to help with that social emotional piece. Thank you.
Questions? No, it's strong work, and it's so important. I mean, we have to have the conditions for learning to be there, and it takes a lot to
We'll
get
say
something
that
there.
I volunteer frequently at the primary school, and the work you ladies do and just the staff you're amazing with the kids, and I think that that's just fabulous, the rest of this, to help you guys help them. Yeah, you guys rock it.
Thank you to you guys for coming.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
There are no citizens' comments, so we'll move on to board member committee reports. We'll start with Dawn.
I had community ed and finance.
Chet?
And I had agenda planning.
I had, Deb and I attended a seed general meeting and agenda planning. Eric?
No.
I had gone to the seed general meeting and finance tonight.
And then I did the seed general meeting, but online, and then the community advisory committee and Tiger Connections, and I was able to go work at the college fair, and it was amazing. It was so successful. The kids loved it at the college. What are they, recruiters? What do you call? I mean, people that are there to talk about their individual colleges were really excited about like how interested the kids were, and what a great group we had there. So it was really awesome.
Were there also employers there, or was it strictly college?
It was just colleges.
All right then, thank you. We'll move on to student council report, and Lena is ill today.
Yeah, she went home. So updates, she kind of took my highlight there of the college fair. But yeah, it went really well. Just hearing like the kids like having out the booklets, and personally I went home all like, look at all the colleges, and it was fun. I've heard a lot of good feedback. The kindness and chalk, that went really well. We had a lot of people participate. The sidewalks were just filled by the end of it. That was super fun. Homecoming is coming quick. High school dress-up days, Adam Sandler Day was yesterday. Today is soccer mom. Dynamic duos tomorrow, dress your grade. So we're doing toddlers, freshmen, and then all the way up. And then like if you're a senior, you'll be elderly people. And then Tiger Pride Friday. Then the dance after and the game, we're getting ready for that. Decor, we're ordering. People are super hyped for that. Later in the agenda, you'll see Letters of Love and Operation Smile. Those are two new clubs coming to the high school. Lena is actually doing Operation Smile, so she's kind of the expert on that. But from what I can see, it's a really good program. I'm excited. Add more clubs to my thing and help more people. And then we're taking on Manufacturing Month. Student Council, we were talking to Tiger. I was here before school in the Tiger Connections meeting for a little bit, and Ken Young was talking about Manufacturing Month, and Student Council was doing like a lot of theme for months for last year, so we're gonna bring Manufacturing Month to the high school. So that's kind of our recap. questions that I've been hearing is bathrooms once again. They just put the walls up. Also, they are hogging the halls, like all the storage in the walls are just in the way constantly. And then TMAP for sports, a lot of people were questioning why TMAP is not going to be a thing anymore because it's really handy and has all the events, has the schedules. So that's kind of the two questions that we have.
Well, I mean, the bath, I'll speak to the bathroom issues. We're still on time. We're thinking that's gonna be done here in the next couple of weeks, so. It was either, wait for an entire year to do that project and do it next summer, or we'd live to have a couple less bathrooms for a month. So we're getting close. The TMAP piece is something that I had just was briefed on today, actually, and there's lots of new legislation and law on privacy laws for children and students under the age of 18, and there are certain requirements that we have to follow to follow the law. So that's something that we had uncovered, that is an app that doesn't have the security privacy measures that is in line with the legislation that was passed by the state government this year. So we are trying to troubleshoot and of course try to be in compliance with the newly passed laws. So that's just a big picture overview of that.
So it's the state, not our community.
I can get the legislation, we can send it out. I mean, yeah, so you can have that at your discretion to be able to share with people that are asking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that isn't something arbitrarily, we just said, let's change that, but we're also trying to find a suitable replacement that does follow the law.
Are we able to continue using the TMAP for the rest of this year? Or
That's something that I wasn't prepared to speak to that.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
those are some things that I can certainly look into. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for student council? Well, enjoy your homecoming week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Superintendent report.
Well, homecoming was referenced, so of course that's a big thing in our district, and what's nice about that is all schools participate in their school spirit everywhere, which is exciting. Tiger Community Connections was also referenced as well. That's our group that gets together that kind of bridges the gap between the district and the business community and Chamber of Commerce to establish more business partners to move our career academies along. And again, we're just seeing lots of momentum and growth in that area. So we're thankful for that. I want to just reference if you drive north of the middle school, you will notice that there has been quite a bit of work on the parking lot. So it's amazing how quickly they've pulled some of that together. So if you're ever out in that direction, drive out there and you'll see. Our public engagement group has, in our action plan, has a legislative platform that we're trying to work to put together. And we are in the process of getting that done, and we should have something to present to the full board in November, December-ish timeframe. That's something that we've never done before as a school district, so it's kind of a new thing for us. As you're aware, our different associations that we work with have a legislative platform. Many of the larger districts in the state have their own district legislative platform. So we felt like, well, let's customize it to what's important to us in Princeton, so that when we're talking to our legislators and our community members, we can share the specific pieces that are important to us in Princeton. We had a finance committee meeting just before this, I want the board to know that we're slightly lower than projections on enrollment. At this point, I will send out exact numbers, but right now we're looking about 20 less students than what we had projected. Every year, we've been in a good place the last 3 or 4 years that we've been slightly over projections. This year, we're slightly under. Okay, so that's something that we're modifying and adjusting and monitoring very closely. We met with our crisis team this morning with admin and other emergency officials. We did discuss briefly our processes and progress without having SROs in our buildings. And that is something that we still are hopeful to work with the city to reestablish at some point. But I want you to know that still at this point, we are operating without SROs. However, they are responding when we have contacted them on different situations. And I think I'll end my remarks with that, and there's certainly other items that I'll speak to later in the agenda.
Yeah.
I just had one more. Ben was talking about how homecoming is kind of spread across schools. Another thing that we're working on is Traveling Pet Fest. So that will be another thing. We'll go to primary school, intermediate school, and then middle school. So all the captains, we bring people from bands, so they'll do the instruments, and then the homecoming king and queen, Graham Anderson and Lola Myers will kind of lead the pack, and then the cheerleaders will be there too. So that's another big thing that popped in my head. So
That's really good networking across the, you know, and including having those other groups feel included. Yeah. Cool. All right, anything else? All right, then we'll move on to approve the agenda for tonight. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Melissa. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chad. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes from 9/19. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motion made by Deb. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Eric
Second.
Minks. Is there a second? Chad? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll then move on to the information session of our meeting, and the pre-sale report is up first. And
All right, do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, tonight we have Matt Hammers from Ellers. Jody was unavailable, so he's going to join us, and he's actually going to take us through the pre-sale report, which we actually switched out from the one that was here previous. He sent me a new one. So I'll let you take it away, Matt, and explain the complications with us.
Yes, sounds good, Michelle. Good evening, members of the board. My name's Matthew Hammer, and I work with Jody on the Princeton team as one of the financial advisors that has been working with the district since I joined Ellers. And we're continue to monitor the refunding opportunity and the restructure that we've been looking at for the district's 2014 A bonds. And we have an updated, like Michelle said, we have an updated pre-sale report that is hot off the press from this afternoon based on some of the latest market conditions that we've seen with some sales that happened earlier this morning. Overall, there is some changes since when we had put the initial resolution together, where we're actually going to target some of the maturities in this specific bond issue to refund. So when when bonds are sold, typically there's a call date on those bonds. And in your case, the 2014 A bonds had a February 1st of 2024 call provision, which meant that any of the maturities after that time could be refunded or refinanced, similar to what you would do in a home mortgage. It's typical most of the time to be looking at refinancing all those maturities, but sometimes it makes sense to look at specific maturities because each one of those maturities has an interest rate or a coupon. And right now, based on where market conditions are at and with your existing debt service levy, when we're looking to restructure and in essence pay some of the principal off on those 2014 A, the original issue earlier, as well as capture savings with the maturities that we can, we are looking at the district's maturities that are happening from 2000 or from 2030 to 2034 right now. And we actually had to drop one of the maturities at the end of the schedule because the interest rate wasn't on the coupon rate on that maturity. The last maturity, the 2035 maturity, wasn't generating enough savings to look at moving forward with this at that time. So right now our report is based on that. You'll see later in the agenda, there's an amended resolution that outlines that we're not planning to, or we gives us the flexibility to not refund the entire bond issue. And the entire bond issue was initially 29 million, and we're looking at refunding about 12.5 million of it as part of this sale in a couple weeks. So there's like Michelle said, there's a pre-sale report that has a lot of detail in it. I'm going to hit the high points of it. Like I said, we're looking at refinancing or refunding the district's 2030 to 2034 maturities on the 2014 issue. And we're looking at a schedule of moving forward with that sale on October 17th. So we'll take bids the morning of the 17th, and then the board would award later that evening. And we would close on the bonds November 9th. And then those bonds would be redeemed or refunded as of February 1st of 24. So the money will sit in escrow and generate some investment earnings between the time that we close on the bonds and the time that we actually need to redeem them, which will be February 1 of 24. And right now with short-term interest rates where they're at, the district's going to generate, I think we're estimating about $170,000 worth of investment earnings that can be used towards the refunding as part of the refunding bonds. There's several schedules that were included as part of this. You'll notice our normal sources and uses. We're assuming we're still getting reoffering premiums, and we're still assuming we're going to get a premium bid as part of that. And really what that means is that the underwriters are typically going to give you interest rates higher than what the true interest costs, and then the par amount that is needed to refund those bonds is really going to be less than the outstanding principal amount left on the bond. So right now we're assuming we'll get roughly around an $800,000 premium, which will allow us to decrease the par amount of the bonds compared to what we're anticipating needing to refund for a principal amount, as well as that amount that we're assuming we're going to generate in interest earnings. The outstanding coupons on the bonds that are outstanding before we assume any premium are sitting at 4% right now, and those are the principal maturities that we've identified for refunding. And we're looking right now, based on current market conditions, that the true interest costs in the new bonds will be slightly lower than that, at about 3.9% is our current estimate. But then we'll be also taking into account the interest we'll earn in the escrow account, as well as the assumed premium that we'll get as part of the sale. And then the final pages, right now our estimated savings or future value savings number is roughly about 550,000, 560,000 of future value savings as part of the that future debt service levies that property tax owners will recognize. And when we look at the final page of the pre-sale report, you'll see with the restructure that we're doing as part of the refunding, where we're actually moving principal maturities up into taxes payable 24. That levy is already in the district's existing levy that was certified in September. And then we have a smaller principal maturity in 25. And then you can see the savings that's generated out in the 2031 to 33 timeframe for the maturities that we're calling. The assumption is that we'll be able to refinance the last maturity at some point in time, or we'll be able to fill in that space that's created as part of the refinancing with a future bond issue, because we'll be able to structure it to fill in the gap, in essence, where that dip in the schedule is with the tax rate right now on page 12 of the pre-sale report that you see. So that's high level what we're looking at. Again, there's an amended resolution that Andrea drafted for the meeting tonight. Andrea Heckey, the district's bond attorney. You'll see the adjustments that were made from a resolution that was adopted on September 5th. And really what it's doing is allowing some flexibility of picking and choosing the maturities that make sense for us to target and make sure that we're generating some savings as part of the refinancing. So with that, I can answer any questions folks have about the process. Again, we're on schedule. We'll have another rating as part of the process. The district's going to have that rating call. Right now it's scheduled for October 4th. And then the POS is going to go out, or the prospectus that underwriters will be looking at to bid on the bonds around October 5th. And then we're going to receive bids the morning of October 17th. And then award the sale of bonds at the meeting that night at the district's regular meeting on October 17th. So is there any questions?
It's the same thing, just lower amount.
Yeah, what we're asking is to amend what the board voted on the last time based on the numbers that you had in front of you because of the economy and some of the projections aren't as good as we anticipated. So we are recommending that we still move forward, but the board needs to be fully aware it's not going to be as much of a savings as what we had in the previous document that you voted on. Is that a fair summary?
Yep, that's totally fair. So interest rates have really been moving around over the last month. And even right now, as we're looking, there's a lot of sensitivity. So we've now been able to update this with the latest sales data from this morning. And this is the latest estimate, and it would have looked different than what we were looking at even a month ago or even a week ago for that matter. So we're still recommending moving forward because we're restructuring this as part of the district's long-term plan as part of the capital levies too, as we're looking at a potential a construction project at some point in time as well.
Yeah, and we are refinancing technically half of the amount of the total bond that we took out. We still have an opportunity in the future to do the other half. And is there a time frame on that?
No, as soon as we get past the call date, then we'll be able to refinance the remaining portion of it if it makes sense to move forward if interest rates drop. So at any point in time after February 1st, any of the remaining maturities that are left would still be able to be refinanced at a point in time where hopefully short-term rates. Right now, the market is really inverted. And really what that means is short-term rates from years 1 through 7 roughly are higher than rates starting at year 8. And typically the yield curve is very linear where the one year rates are the lowest and you just keep going up from there. with all the things that are going on at the national level. Right now, short-term rates are actually the highest, are much higher than they are even at the 7 or 8 year term from a yield perspective, which is creating some inefficiency for the remaining portion of the refunding. And hopefully at some point in time, typically we'll get some stabilization on the short-term rates, and it will make sense for us to be able to move forward with some of the other maturities at a future date.
So, in a nutshell, we hopefully will be able to do this half now, and we'll do the other half later, ultimately having, you know, roughly the same savings, just at 2 different points in time.
Any other questions?
So how soon can we, you know, we go out, do the other half, how soon can we come back and do this half?
The other half, you mean, or?
Yeah.
Well, we
Yes.
go out, do the other half, and then when can we come back and do this half again?
Yeah, so
Oh.
if rates would, this portion, you mean, that we're
Yes.
refinancing now. So that'll have a call date of February 1 of 2032. So it'll be an 8-year call. And at that point in time, the maturities out after that would be able to be refinanced again. And when you look at the structure, right, we're paying some of that principal off very quickly. If you look at the final page where we've moved up a significant amount of the principal, right? So we're going to actually pay off a portion of this debt service much faster than would have been anticipated with the existing structure. And then there's some principal maturities after the call date there that'll be left between what we're showing there is the tax year. So it's really a year early. So 2030 really represents fiscal year 2031. And any maturities after that will be callable as part of this issue too, for the remaining portion of this issue.
So Matt, can you explain years 31, 32, and 33, why that bar goes down there?
Yeah, so those we're refinancing the 2030 maturities through the 2034 maturities. And we're structuring it right now where that's really the savings. So those are the maturities that we're pulling from the district's existing 2014A issue. We're moving a portion of that up to taxes payable 24 or fiscal 25. And then we have a smaller portion as we build in some capacity in 2025. And then we've actually shifted some principal around, knowing that we'll fill a portion of that in the 2031 timeframe to the 2033 timeframe. That's a dip. Likely at some point in time with that 2034 maturity, we would either move that forward with a future refinancing, right? When rates would make sense to move that forward. Or if the district held a referendum and you actually issued or had another issue that for bonds, we would fill that in prior to that point in time with the structuring of a new bond issue. So we have flexibility when we look at a future new money issue, right, to fill that space in and actually reduce the tax implication for it, right? Because we would just have larger maturities in that time frame.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're good, Matt.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We'll see you in a couple weeks here.
See you tomorrow, actually.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, Michelle.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good
night.
work.
All right, then we'll move on in information to the CTE facilities discussion. When we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, we asked for some updated information, and so Ben's gonna talk a little bit about what.
Yeah, so really the intent of tonight, we're hoping, is to be just more information based to provide you information and prepare the board to have a longer conversation, more detailed conversation at our next board meeting where we could come to some close to a consensus from the board level on what direction you'd like to see us go. I would also ask the board between tonight and the next board meeting to prepare or have any questions or thoughts that you might have so that I could send those to me so that I can get you all of that information and all of your questions asked prior to the board meeting so that you have everything that you feel like you need for that conversation, okay? So just to frame what we're talking about here, we all are aware of the history of the fact that we had a failed referendum and that, what was that, 2 years ago, now 3 years ago, and that was based upon over 100 community members coming together for a long process to identify all the needs that they felt that we had in the district. And we basically had a referendum that asked the community to support a project that would meet and fulfill all of the needs that were identified. That referendum failed. And then after reviewing and reflecting, after several months, the board provided some direction to administration to come to you with more of a scaled back version and proposal based on the priority item of a career technical ed center that would be aligned to facilitate and be conducive to our career academies at the high school, that would be more in line with hands-on learning, 21st century approaches to what we would like to do. So that's what we've done. That was a little bit harder than we had anticipated because the architects couldn't just basically come up with square footage to say, you know, here's the box, this is what it costs. They needed to get more input from us on more of the scope of the project, and that's when we included several of our teachers and other stakeholders, and we did a series of tours to other school districts to be able to narrow it down to give the architects more information. And I believe it was maybe a month and a half ago, we had that initial proposal to you on that CTE project. We also had some new items that were not on our radar, and that was in the areas of roof that has been on our long-term facility maintenance plan for years at the middle school that we know eventually needs to be replaced, and boiler that is failing at the high school, okay? We also then identified the possibility of a tech levy to be intertwined into the project, and then we also discussed a priority need in terms of space needed at the family center to provide more opportunities for early childhood programming. And for us to do that without purchasing a whole nother building, we felt like the best option would be to relocate our Onward program over to the student services building where the ALC is. We felt like that building has 10,000 square feet. It easily could have both programs. It's just not laid out in a way that would allow us to do that. That building really is still the same, has the same layout, the same everything as it was when we purchased it from what other entity was housed there prior. We've done some things on the outside of the building in terms of windows and, you know, I think painting the outside. We may have done some roofing, but not really much of anything on the inside, okay? So let me start with the tech levy piece, okay? That is a piece that I'm gonna follow up an email to you all on, and you should have it by next week. That is the date that I'm hoping to get that to you on. Michelle has been working with our tech department to finalize what all of those needs are and working with Ellers to see what that tax impact would be. In that initial presentation, the plug number that was in there was 500,000 annually. We feel like it should be higher than that, but we need to justify that with what all the needs are, and those numbers will be coming to you at a future date. I also want to share that we still feel like an April, if the board hypothetically wanted to go out to the public for a referendum, that the most appropriate date would be April. And if that were the case, then we would have to have a vote to move forward at our December meeting so that we can get the, what is it called?
Truth and taxation.
No, the review.
The review and comment to the state in a timely manner. So December is kind of the date that we're working from. If that, it's not necessary. I mean, we could look at other dates, but that's the date that, through talking to consultants and things, think that would be the most appropriate time. Okay, so other things that I want to share out, this document that is newly added here, that number on the CTE additions and renovations has not changed since that first time that we met. Okay, so that I believe, based on what I've heard, is that still is the priority area, and that would be at a minimum what we would have on the list if we were going to go out for a referendum. The piece that we didn't have a number for would be the renovation of the student services building and that 10,000 square feet on the inside that would allow us to have onward there, and then also have a more of a suitable educational setting for the current ALC. We also have other programs in there, like our GED programs and some of those kinds of things. Now, ICS and WOLD have told me multiple times that that is about as conservative of numbers as they could come up with, meaning that's like worst case scenario. Like they put everything in, like everything in there needed to be replaced, right? That's what it would be, because they didn't want to deceive you. They feel like there's a lot of room with that number to bring it down.
Okay, so
Okay,
that one surprised me.
it did me as well, because if you go, I mean, if you go into that building now, that 10,000 square feet is, I mean, you got, walls studded up and some sheetrock and some paint and some cheap carpet, and that's about what you got, right?
Well, and so this is actually a renovation of the entire building.
The entire building.
We aren't talking about, because I thought we were talking about moving onward and retrofitting a space for them, but this number is actually for the entire.
Well, this would be to renovate the entire building, to place onward, because right now they have about 2,000 square feet, okay? So we would think a minimum of 2,000 square feet-ish, right? And then you would, retrofit the rest of the building to be more classrooms and things. Right now, if you go in there, you will see it's just a lot of wasted space. You have a back area that's maybe was a church at one time, because there's almost like a
fellowship hall kind of
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
And then you have a long hallway with, it almost was like a clinic or something, like if you're going to a clinic.
What is it?
It was a roller rink too.
Yeah, roller rink, yeah.
So
Disco ball must not be there still.
Yeah.
I guess you need to know that that's a high number. That number potentially could, would go down, depending on the scope of the project.
Do you know if that includes, the total renovation, if that includes HVAC, fire suppression?
Everything. It's like
Electrical?
Yep. And the thing like,
Once you touch it, you
Yeah,
have to
you're
bring
gonna
it all
have
up
to-
to code.
yeah.
Sure.
see, and we're bound by standards that like a homeowner and things necessarily wouldn't have. So yes, that has everything in it. Like right now, I think the heating system is probably something similar to what you have in your house,
Yeah. it
right?
is.
A couple of units like that. So I mean, it would have to be up to standards, okay? But there's a lot of potential for that building. We just haven't done anything to it to make it a high quality. I mean, I feel like the outside of the building looks much better than it had aesthetically. And now with the parking lot being repaved and stuff, you know, it's a nice quality building. So I guess the thought is, as we were trying to figure out like space issues, for us having to turn away families for early childhood classes, that, you know, that would be a better solution versus us going out to try and lease or buy another building. When we already have a building, just we need to design it to a place that it would be more functional. So that's I guess the theme there is that's worst case scenario. And we could scale that back, okay? I also want to point out that I guess I understand that the board decides, but I'm going to give you my recommendation, I guess, based on kind of thinking about this a lot, is, you know, we've had the roof, you know, we have a 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan, and we have things on the list. And, you know, the middle school roof's been on the list, and we just kind of keep pushing it off. And we know eventually that needs to get done. We're gonna have to replace the roof. Now, there's two things I'm thinking. One is, the roof isn't falling in. I feel like the sense of urgency, we can push that off a little bit. And for two, we have other funding mechanisms that potentially can pay for roofs. Like our long-term facility maintenance, when we bond and are able to get some of those dollars up front to do bigger projects, okay, we'll be eligible to do another one of those, what are we thinking?
4 years.
In 4 years, okay? Do I think we can manage with the roof we have for 4 years? I do, right? But I don't have, I mean, we can ask some of the experts, because I'll have them into the meeting next time. But there's other funding mechanisms for roofs. There's not other funding mechanisms for us to build, you know, a CTE wing or major renovations like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the other piece is the boiler. You know, there are some other things that we can use there as well, using long-term facility maintenance dollars as well. Now, I'm not as confident in saying we can push the boiler off further as I am the roof, okay?
Seems like some dice rolling there.
You know, potentially, but you can pay for boilers and you can pay for roofs with long-term facility maintenance dollars. The other thing that's important to know about roofs, it is every other district I've been in a district that if you can't do a referendum to get big amount of money all at one time, you do your roofs in sections. So you might do one wing of the building 1 year, and it might be $500,000, and then you have to wait 2 more years and do another section, or 3 more years or whatever. So there's options with roofs, there's some options with boilers. So that's kind of where we're at. I also feel like, this is just my 2 cents, I feel like, you know, there's sensitivity in our country and our state, and certainly in central Minnesota, on tax impact and increases in taxes and inflation and all of those things. And I feel like our best chance to sell this to the community and you know, have a yes vote would be to have the tax impact be very minimal, which I think that's kind of keeping it in between that 30 and 35 million. And you have those dollars, I think, in that other presentation from the last time, so that you can see that. You know, honestly, one option that the board could say, hey, you said you gave us direction to come to you for a proposal for a CTE state-of-the-art wing so we can move the Career Academy stuff forward. You could say, hey, let's just do that, and let's have some dollars to help with the technology, and that could be it, right? But then there's these other needs too, so I guess it's how many needs do we want to try and tackle? But I definitely would encourage the board to, let's keep this reasonable for the tax impact. That's the information I want to share with you. So if you have like whatever questions you have, if I can't answer those, I'll forward those off to the architects, the engineers, the elders, and any question that I get from a board member, I will send the answers to everybody on the board, so everybody gets all the information.
I guess I'd like to know Keith's 2 cents on the roof before we put it off another 4 years or whatever, potentially.
Yeah, we can do that.
As far as, if we're gonna do in phases like we've been discussing, I think it'd be good, just maybe put it out there, like what would that phase 2 look like? And, because people ask, right?
To do what in phases, the roof?
Well, because if we're doing this in phases, right? We're not doing anything with the high school, as we can see here. And so, all those changes for the rooms, from the.
You
stuff
mean
that-
the old core?
Yeah, all that stuff, changing the room,
Because
changing the
the
hall.
CTEs would be
It's different,
different,
absolutely, it's different.
I see what
So I'm saying,
Well-
if we're gonna do it in phases, I think it'd be beneficial to show what that looks like, so people understand. And if we're gonna have to go up again, what's that gonna look like?
Yeah, well, and I think that the phase 2 would potentially be all the items from that original list that we weren't able to get in phase 1.
Right.
I mean, that would be the easy answer.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just fair to show that to people so they know.
Okay. So that's, if there's, I think I accomplished what I was hoping to accomplish and what you asked for, so if you have further questions, just send them to me.
All right, anything else there? All right. Thank you, Ben. We'll move on to the action portion of the meeting, and we'll move to the 11A refunding bond resolution. Someone like to read the resolution and make a motion, please.
You can do it. I just read it word for word, right? I move to accept the resolution amending and restating resolution relating to 27,935,000 general obligation school building refunding bond series 2023B, authorizing the issuance and sale thereof and providing for credit enhancement with respect thereto as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second
Chad is a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote by roll call, starting with Melissa.
Yes.
Deb? Yes. Eric?
Yes.
Sue, yes. Chad?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move on to 11B, the paraprofessional contract. I'll entertain a motion to accept the 23-25 paraprofessional contract as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Deb. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chad. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will also vote by roll call, starting with Chad.
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Eric?
No.
Sue, yes. Motion carries. And we move on then to board goals. And we did entertain this discussion a few months ago, took into consideration the conversations and the direction. And those goals are before you. I think I'll ask for a motion, and then we can discuss it if there are any further discussion.
Make a motion.
Motion to accept the board goals for 23-24 is made by Chad. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Melissa. Is there any discussion?
I'll just share that, we did talk about this quite a bit at a meeting a month or two ago. And, there was some questions and some pushback, which is good. I think that's really good to have those kinds of discussions. We tried to listen to the items that were brought up as concerning to people and remove those items from the language that was concerning. And then, we brought it back to you based upon that feedback. So I just wanted everyone to know that we did do our best to remove the items that were shared as concerns.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. There were no additions to the agenda. The future meetings are listed there. I will entertain a motion to move the meeting to closed session to discuss the superintendent's contract. There a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Don and second by Eric. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
We were now in closed session.
And I shared with